Hello and welcome to the Pinnacle Talk Show, where we go beyond the church walls to discuss activities, events, and issues that's impacting our community and yours. I'm your host, Janae Sharice. Joining me will be Pastor Ricks, and today our guest will be Harold Hobbs, and we'll be discussing the church and financial planning. So Shantae, what's the talk?
Hey guys, welcome to What's the Talk, August 2020, here at the Pinnacle Church of God. To find the most up-to-date information and guidance regarding the COVID-19, please visit the Department of Health's dedicated COVID-19 webpage. For more information and advisories from the CDC, please visit the CDC COVID-19 website. The website is also available in Spanish and Creole. For more information about current travel advisories issued by the U.S. Department of State, please visit the Travel Advisory website. For any other questions that are related to COVID-19 here in Florida, please contact the department's dedicated COVID-19 call center. The phone number is 1-866-779-6121. The call center is available 24 hours per day. And inquiries may also be emailed to covid-19@floridahealth.gov. Are you looking for a COVID testing site? Marion County offers testing to people who would like to be tested for the virus, regardless of whether or not they are experiencing symptoms. Testing is by appointment only, so call the Department of Health, Marion County 19 call center at 352-644-2590 to be scheduled for your COVID-19 test. If you're looking in Lake County, the Florida Department of Health is offering free COVID-19 testing to residents and non-residents of Lake County, including children, at several locations throughout Lake County. Testing is on a first-come, first-served basis and is recommended to call the Lake County Department of Health hotline prior to visiting any testing site. The hotline phone number is 352-742-4830. Have you found yourself strapped from COVID-19? Hope in Sight, Lake County, Florida has approved Coronavirus Aid Relief and Economic Security. It's a CARES funding act that will assist individuals and families with past due rental, mortgage, or utility assistance up to $3,000 per household. If you are interested, please go to reopenlake.com. Again, that is reopenlake.com. Marion County residents and families who are unable to stay current on rent or mortgage payments because of COVID-19 are asked to also call 352-671-8770. Applications can also be found on the MarionCountyFlorida.org website. Sumter County assistance will be provided to eligible homeowners and renters who have been directly affected by COVID-19 in the form of mortgage, rental, or utility payments. The application cycle opens on August 10th, 2020 and closes on September 30th, 2020. If you are interested, please reach the Sumter County website at sumtercountyflorida.gov-87-housing.
Good afternoon, Mr. Hobbs. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you today?
I'm doing well. And thank you for joining us today on our show. And today we're going to be talking about your life insurance shop. Can you tell us about yourself? Tell us about yourself and your company.
Absolutely. So my name is Harold Hobbs. I am the agency owner and the sole agent of the Life Insurance Shop, which is a life insurance brokerage company that has a relationship with over 25 insurance carriers to help clients find the best price product. So not only do we do life insurance, but we also do disability. We also do annuities, which is a part of a tax-free retirement strategy. And we also actually do long-term care. We also do long-term care, and we also do some things regarding Medicare. So, yes. Okay. I heard a little background noise. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I was able to mute your other line, so you're fine now.
Okay.
Okay, good.
So tell us about the different insurance policies you offer in terms of term, whole, and universal. Do you deal in those?
Yes, I do. I deal with all of them. Really, the difference between those two is going to vary based upon the client need. Okay, so term is typically will be classified as the cheapest way of providing coverage. The premiums are locked in for a term. So the word term comes from either it's 10 years, 15, 20, 25, or 30 years. Typically after that, your coverage is typically no longer needed. Okay, so it's cheap, no money's back. Your whole life, which is also referred to as permanent and cash value, which is universal life falls into that category too as well. Those policies are a little bit more advanced. Those policies typically last until around age 100 is when they typically expire, no matter if you purchased the policy on a 2-year-old child or whether you purchased the policy on someone 50 or 70, the policy is typically going to run its case till about age 100. The other distinctive thing about whole life, permanent, or universal life insurance is that it builds cash value. So while you're paying your premiums every single month or quarterly, semi-annually or annually, your policy is going to build a cash reserve or cash value, which is basically a part of your premiums are going into a money market. So by the time you've paid your premiums over a period of time, you have a nice bank account or cash value that's a part of your policy that you can borrow from or use as you choose to see fit. So that's the difference between term and whole life. Whole life is typically a little bit more expensive, but depending on what your needs are, what the client's needs are, we're able to fit them into the best price policy for their needs and for the budget.
So,
I know. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Pastor.
no, I was just going to ask, when should you consider purchasing insurance and determining which one to go with, term or whole life?
When you're trying to determine, it's going to be based on how long you need the coverage. That's number one. How long you need it, how much you're looking for is going to determine whether or not whether you go with term or whole life. So an example would be typically term, companies that offer term products, they don't offer anything less than $100,000 in coverage, okay? If you're in your 60s or 70s and you're really only looking for burial or final expense is what we refer to it in the industry, a funeral is typically around $10,000. So if you're looking for a smaller policy under 100, that's typically a whole life policy that you're going to want to need. If you're looking for a larger amount, 100,000 or plus, is typically term. Now, the also caveat about that is your age. I'm 37, right? So anyone around my age group or younger, they typically are going to want to cover their prime working years up until retirement. So typically age 60, 62 to 67 in the industry is that age where we look at, well, people may not need as much coverage going forward, right? Their working years are pretty much behind them, not in front of them, right? So they're not earning after 62, 67, or not focused on earning per se. They're more focused on retaining their actual income, okay? Now, with that being said, typically term is a really good fit for people with young families. It's cheap coverage, but it's designed to give you a lot of coverage in the situation that you pass away before you turn 65, okay? Now, if you start to get in your 40s, your 50s, your 60s, that's a different discussion. We want to look at, debt. Maybe you have some children that are fairly young and they're not going to be out of the house until, you're closer to the 60 mark. Well, that's a different story. So how we use term and how we use whole life or permanent cash value, number one has to do, with mortality, what they're using the policy for and how long they're going to use it, and also budget and age. So I don't know if that answers your question.
That means a whole different variables go into determining what type of insurance that you're going to purchase. Yes, it does.
There's a lot of variables. Yes.
Yeah, so somebody really have to sit down and know what they are looking for. Do you find it when a person is much older is when they start trying to acquire the life insurance?
That is correct. My average client is in their at least 50s or 60s. And one of those, the reason why is a lot of misconceptions around life insurance is that my employer has it. I have coverage through my employer.
Right.
And oftentimes or not, what happens is when they start to get in their 50s or 60s, they're realizing, oh, wait, the 20,000, 30,000, maybe 50,000, could be any number, but that's typically what we see. That's not enough coverage if I were to pass away today. Or by that time, most of my clients have started maybe having health challenges. You know, one thing common after 50 is diabetes, high blood pressure, cholesterol, maybe because of weight gain, sleep apnea. Maybe they've had some bouts with depression because of things that happened to their life. Now their health is not as, you know, pristine as they were in their 20s. So now they're more cognitive of life insurance. So that's typically around, age 50, 60. I have a lot of clients in their 70s or 80s purchasing life insurance, because the reality of it is with the way preventative health care is set up, the way people are being more aware about their health, especially with the internet and technology, people, to sum that up, people are living longer, which means now they have to worry about, maybe, what's going to happen, if I'm 80 and I don't have enough life insurance, and I want to take care of the grandkids, or maybe I still have a mortgage. So it all really depends. The thing that separates agencies like mine is there's really not one fit, right? And so you don't have to really know, to piggyback on what you said earlier, you really don't have to know what you need if you're speaking to the right professional, because I can ask you a couple of questions, and all of a sudden I can walk you down a path to where in just a few moments, you'll know exactly how much you need, and you'll tell me how much coverage you'll need, and then I can guide you to the right product. So
is it difficult for our elderly community to acquire the life insurance if they're already having health issues?
It depends on, to answer that question, no. We have policies pretty much for everyone. Okay. Now, how much you want to pay and how much it's going to cost, that's a different story. Okay. But I have clients who are missing organs. I have clients who were diagnosed with cancer within months, and they can get typical coverage. Those policies are a little bit more expensive. So it really just depends on what the client's budget. But one of the reasons why we work with so many carriers or have access to so many carriers is because we shop the market. So there are certain carriers that are very good for certain, in life insurance, they call them impairments or health issues.
Okay.
So if you have breast cancer, I can think of 3 carriers off the top of my mind that are really good, or really, they're really liberal with their guidelines, and for people who have been diagnosed, women who've been diagnosed with breast cancer. Same thing for diabetes. There are companies that have programs for people who are diabetics, and as long as you take your medication and you're exercising and taking care of your body, this company will actually give you points, and at the end of the year, you can redeem those points to help lower insurance premiums over time. So it could be cancer, it could be, melanoma, it could be kidney cancer, it could be prostate cancer, even occupation. So I deal with people who are private pilots. That's another touchy subject. So it's not, so to answer, is it easy? The question is, if you're dealing with very challenging, more advanced health issues like cancer, and depending on how long you had it, we have to do a little bit more research and work, but it's not necessarily impossible to not get. 3 carriers actually have a program for people who've been diagnosed with HIV. Now, if you have AIDS from your HIV, then that's a different discussion. That customer, there's a certain product for them. But if you have HIV, there are actually 3 companies. John Hancock, which has been around for 100 years, actually has a program for them, and they can get up to $2 million and have HIV. Who would have ever thought? So what's happening in insurance today is because of technology and preventive healthcare, and this goes back to what I was saying earlier, clients are living longer when they catch these health issues sooner. And because of the preventive healthcare and technology, they live longer, which means in the eyes of the insurance company, your mortality is longer, and now they're willing to offer you some type of coverage. So it's not always hard. I will address this. Because of COVID-19, it is it is, if you're looking for life insurance, you want to shop, okay? Because of COVID-19, insurance carriers are being very strict, especially if you have any type of respiratory or cancer or heart issues, because COVID-19 actually affects those things around your respiratory system and your heart. So there are carriers that are, and they're pulling out of the business. If you're over, especially if you're over 75, they're just saying, we're not going to even accept your application at this time. There are certain carriers that will say, well, as long as they fit into a certain rating class, we'll accept them. But to kind of answer your question, it's not impossible. You just need to work with the right person to figure out what's available to you. Okay.
And is it going to be, the premium's going to be higher now with certain health issues, or if you're a smoker, or with your age has to do with it as well for the premiums? Or I heard you mention maybe professions as well.
Yes. So to answer your question, number one, smoking. In the insurance industry, if you smoke cigars, marijuana, even chewing tobacco or pipe, there are a few carriers that will give you a non-smoker rate, okay? Unless you're smoking every day, then that's different. But if, let's say you have a businessman and he enjoys a cigar from time to time, maybe 2 times a week, some insurance companies will consider him a non-smoker, okay? As far as cigarettes, okay, most companies are gonna add a smoker rate. People who smoke and pay smoker rates typically pay 2 to 3 times more than a person who doesn't smoke. However, companies like Lincoln Financial, pretty sure everyone's heard of Prudential, John Hancock again, those companies will give clients like that 3 years to quit. So they'll give you 3 years non-smoker rate. And if you successfully can quit, then you can continue your non-smoker rate. So for smoking, that's a little bit easier. Your life insurance at a basic description, your life insurance premium is based upon your age and it's based upon your health. Okay, that's the baseline the insurance company uses to determine how much it costs. Okay. So obviously, the more health issues you have, the more costly your premiums will become. Now, what I do as an agent or owner, sometimes we can piece together different products to help you achieve, your goal. But ultimately, what I do as a professional is really break down why you need life insurance. Why do you really need life insurance? For some people, that's, if I die, my wife can't live in the house I purchased because I'm the breadwinner, and I have 2 younger children, right? So this just doesn't become a premium that I pay every month. It more likely becomes, hey, I need to make sure that I have something in place, unless my wife has to go live with her mom or whatever that reason may be. Okay, so most people will look at insurance as a cost. What is it going to cost you more if you don't have it? If you make $50,000 a year, your children are, let's say your children are 2 young toddlers. Well, for you, if you plan to commit to raise them until they're in college, you're probably worth around $1 million. So if you die today, your family just lost $1 million over the next 20 years. So it really just depends on what your actual need is. Cost, it's what is it going to cost you if you don't have it? Okay, so typically, and we understand everyone has a budget, but I typically work with anybody and try to find them the best price policy. So, but yes, to answer your question, cost does play a fact in age, in health, and other things, in lifestyles.
So have you dealt with any stigmas? I mean, I know, especially within the Black community, people have a negative thought about life insurance until it's needed, until someone passes, and then everybody is trying to, burial arrangements, and then they're looking for those dollars. How do you address the stigmas that come with having life insurance within our community? That's an interesting question, because obviously those stigmas are there. Because what I find out in our community is that life insurance is typically looked at as an accessory or something that I'll worry about later.
and death happens, and then now families have to pull together resources and money and just to bury someone in the ground. So anytime I'm dealing with someone in my community, it's my job to take a step back and educate them, because what I've understand, it's the stigma comes from a method or a way of thinking. Okay. And that thinking has to do with, well, I'll worry about it later. Like I just said, when most people don't understand that or insurance in general is really the cornerstone of every financial plan. Okay. So it's my job as a professional to help rewire the way that they think, to try to help this stigma, to try to erase this stigma that's in our Black community. But what I would say, if I was talking to a group of my community, and I would let them know that, number one, it's the right thing to do. It's not okay. And understand, if you don't have the money, that's something different. But it's your responsibility at a minimum to make sure that you are prepared to cover your own costs or your funeral at a minimum. When other family members, when other people in your community have to pull together resources, now you're taking away from the resources that they need to provide for their family. Okay, that's number one. You have to be able to put yourself in the ground. You owe it to your children, you owe it to your family to be able to provide that at a minimum. Okay, at a higher level, life insurance can also be used to build generational wealth. And us as an African American community have to understand that every other community does this. Caucasian community does this. The Asian community does this. Whatever community, most of the other communities, they have something in place so that when they pass along, not only is their basic funeral covered, but they also leave something either for the children or the grandchildren. And what happens is when one family member does that, it typically can propel, right, or has a trickle down effect to 2 generations later. Because now that child or grandchild, now they understand the importance of life insurance, for one. So it's an education factor. Number 2, it's a financial factor. Now they can get ahead in life. Maybe it's buying real estate, paying off student loans, whatever, having some financial cushion. So now they're able to afford life insurance. And then they have a deep conviction personally about life insurance because mom or grandmother had it. And now we can, move these generational curses out the way for the generations to come behind us. So, for our community, we have to take back and understand that I'm a steward what has been trusted to me. If you're a believer, you're a steward to what God has put into your stewardship. So if you're managing your finances in a way to where you can't take care of your basic needs, then maybe we ought to take a look, and really come down and see, what's causing the financial strain in my life to where I don't have certain priorities in place. One of those being life insurance, even insurance in general. If you don't have life insurance, then, you're kind of you could be setting your family up for, to carry your bill, and that's really not fair to your peers. So, let me give an example. 2 days ago, I had a phone call from a young man and his mother in Ohio. He's 18-year-old college student, and his mother gave me permission to speak on her behalf. And he called me because he wanted to purchase life insurance for his mother, which his mother approved because she did the same thing for her mother. And so here we have a trickle down effect where the generation, their mind has been, their mentality has been changed about how they think about life insurance, how they think about generational wealth, how they think about taking care of each other. And here you have an 18-year-old kid calling and asking questions about life insurance on how to get his mother protected. I was blown away because that almost never happens. But this is a pure example of what happens when grandma gets life insurance on her child, and then that mom's child teaches her son about life insurance, and now they're able to build generational wealth, and it happens like a snowball. So the stigma in our community is that, the church or family members will come up with that, and that is absolutely incorrect. And we need to address it head on by educating our community about financial responsibility as a whole. I don't know if that answered your question. I kind of went on a tangent there, but
No, that's right on point though.
Yeah. So now, as you say, that the young man had called to get insurance on his mother. What is the statistic of the parents getting insurance on their children?
Good question. That's a very good question. Most of the time, you'll see that in this situation, she wasn't purchasing the insurance on her child, but most of the time, you'll see that in a family setting, mom, dad, and well, I take that back. Even typically, when the children are younger, you'll see that the parents will purchase insurance on their child, and that's a very good topic because whenever that happens, or whenever I recommend it to that type of client of mine, we are talking about, again, an education point, right? So obviously if the child passes away, the funeral expenses are covered, okay? But if they don't pass away, now this child has an understanding of life insurance, and then they also have something, so when they pass away, to pay off for their grandchildren. So that's just the same example, almost going in the opposite direction. But again, it starts with educating the adults first in our community, right, so they can then turn around and teach their children. Your children are going to mirror what they see mom and daddy do. But having life insurance in place on your children is an excellent way to protect your family just in case something happens to the children. And then it's also an excellent way to educate them and set them up for success down the road. Now, let me add another thing about life insurance that many people don't know, is that there is a feature on many life insurance policies today called living benefits or accelerated death benefits. What that means is that if you become terminally ill, critically ill, chronically ill, or basically have a heart attack, stroke, cancer, some other debilitating disease, and it depends on carrier, to where you are, the doctor has given you a timetable or shortened mortality rate, 12 months to live, 24 months to live, 36 months to live, you can accelerate your life insurance policy. So if you have a $100,000 term policy, there are companies out there that will allow you to accelerate $80,000 of it. Take it in a lump sum before you pass away, just in case you need to make preparations for your family before you die. That's an excellent way. If you have children, you can put living benefits on their policy so that if that child becomes sick in any kind of way, where they, some families, they go through financial strain because their child develops some type of disease or sickness, and they have to spend money on medical care and the resources to provide for that child. This is an excellent way to be able to use these benefits as a secondary resource, which is included in your insurance because it doesn't cost extra, to be able to help provide and care for that child. So life insurance can do all of those things that I mentioned, but having it protect the adult and the child is a great way to put a hedge around you from any type of financial burden that may come along if anybody in the family becomes sick, ill, or die.
Life insurance has many benefits just outside of the normal things that we hear concerning insurance. So thank you.
Yes. Could you repeat that question again? I think something happened. I don't know if the signal went out.
So what financial opportunities, the company, what other information do you have in reference to retirement maybe, or mortgage protection?
Sure. Okay. Let's talk about mortgage protection first, and then I'll get to the retirement aspect. Okay. Mortgage protection, typically that's an insurance professional is typically going to use about term insurance for the average mortgage professional, right? There are policies designed specifically to protect your mortgage, but typically they are not worth the investment for most of the products out there versus just getting a term policy. Example, you purchase, again, let's just do a round number, $100,000 mortgage, and you have that mortgage for 30 years. Well, that's very simple in term. We want to purchase a $100,000 life insurance policy on a 30-year term. So the term policy is just designed to fall off or expire when you finish paying for your mortgage. Now, here's the difference between term or mortgage protection products that are designed to just match your mortgage. Mortgage protection products actually decrease when you pay off your mortgage, the years come off the back end until you reach year 1 or year 0, and then you have no mortgage. They do have products that match that, but typically what's happening is the face amount is decreasing every time you make mortgage payments every year. With term insurance, your $100,000 in coverage, it never decreases. So let's say you get down to the last 5 years of your mortgage, and you only owe, $20,000 or so, maybe less than that. You're still gonna, with a term policy, you're still gonna have $100,000 in coverage. So let's say you pass away year 5, you only owe $20,000 in your mortgage. Your beneficiary is gonna get a check for $100,000, which means that your beneficiary can now pay off the rest of the mortgage, and they have $80,000 to move forward, and they have no more mortgage. Term is pretty much 95% of the time the best way to finance your mortgage protection coverage. So that's one of the things I specialize in. That's what I cut my teeth on in the business, so to speak, when I first became a life insurance agency owner. It's mortgage protection. That's the main one. You get a new mortgage, you get life insurance, because if you die, essentially what you're doing is you're protecting the equity in your home.
Right.
That's essentially what mortgage protection is. You pay off, you get 15 years down the road, you have all this equity in your home, you die, they foreclose on the house, you have nothing, right? So mortgage protection protects the equity in the home. So, all right, switching gears to retirement. So life insurance can also be used as to supplement your retirement, not necessarily replace like your 401k or an IRA, but it's also used to supplement. Okay, so I'm going to talk about cash value policies is how we use to supplement, but I'm also going to talk about annuities. Okay, annuities is a very good one. There are life insurance products that the cash value matches or mirrors the stock market. Okay, so an average example would be, what we call an indexed universal life policy. And then I spoke earlier how whole life or universal life policies, they build cash value the longer you pay your premiums. Well, indexed universal life policy, those policies typically only provide an interest rate of about 2%. All right, so barely enough to keep up with inflation. It's not going to make you rich. Typically, you're not going to earn a whole lot of money on top of a whole life policy. However, an indexed universal life policy can mirror the stock market, can mirror the S&P 500, for example, okay? Which means some of my clients actually are getting about an average rate of 5 to 6% return. Okay, sometimes they're seeing a lot higher returns, 9, 11%. The insurance company puts a cap. But what this means is that your life insurance that you pay every single month can generate a lot of revenue, and you can use this in addition to retirement. Now, one of the reasons why other professionals, and it's a little bit more costly than term, but one of the reasons why people would use this type of policy is because if you take a policy loan from the cash value and not a withdrawal, there's a difference. You can avoid paying taxes on it. As if you take a withdrawal from a 401k or your IRA, you then have to pay early penalty, you have to pay, your taxes, you have to pay, all these things. As with the life insurance, you can take a policy loan for 5% and you don't have to pay it back. And the insurance company makes you pay 5%. So an example of this policy would be a very popular product I have that a lot of wealthy, or I'll just say individuals with healthy incomes or have the more disposable income, you don't have to be wealthy, but they will use these products to help finance their children go to college. They will also help their grandchildren go to college. So for example, if we took a 2-year-old child and we put $300 a month into the policy. Now that's a lot, but when I tell you the numbers, you'll be blown away. Okay. Now that $300 provides your child about $400,000 in life insurance. Now that doesn't we're not buying $400,000 in life insurance. We're using the money to set the child up for educational purposes, okay? But what that would work out to is by the time that child turns 21, they would have about $100,000 in their life insurance policy, okay? Which they then can, which you, as a parent, you can then use to fund education, say $20,000 a year or so, and you can take a policy loan and you don't have to pay it back. Now, after you take the distributions from the policy, you, instead of telling your child to pay $300 in student loans, you say, pay this $300 life insurance policy. And if that child keeps that policy by the time they're in their 50s and 60s, they'd have about $1.7 million in accumulations on that policy. Now, in the beginning, they started out with $430,000 of death benefit. The way the policies are set up is the death benefit increases over time. So by the time that child gets in their 60s, they have about $1.7 million in their cash value that they can borrow, but they also now have about $2 million of death benefit. And if they pass away at that time, their beneficiary gets the cash value of 1.7 and the $2 million in death benefit for a total of 3.7. Okay, now there's some taxes in that, but that's the power of an index universal life policies. So we'll see clients who need $1 million in coverage do $900,000 in term and do the $100,000 in index universal life. So that way, when the term ends in 30 years, they don't need $900,000 anymore, right? They just need maybe the $100,000 index universal life policy. And now they have all this cash that they've been putting in it for 30 years. Those are strategies that some people actually use. So they will use index universal life or whole life policies as a retirement strategy. That's a part of their portfolio. And there's more and more. I can go on for days about how to use whole life. And, you know, the idea is that when you get your money back from what you spent on premiums over years, when you get to retirement, then you can use the money that you spent on life insurance for years as a part of your retirement. Okay, which transitions me to annuities, and I'll touch this one quickly. The main thing that consumers or people have to look out for when they get in their 50s, their 60s, is, am I going to run out of money? You know, when I retire, you know, if I'm going to retire at 65, 67, 72, and, you know, my mom and daddy lived to about 85 or 88, then, I mean, that's a long time. You know, how far is your 401k, your pension, everything that you've accumulated over the last 30 years? How long is that going to last if you want to maintain the same lifestyle that you've been living currently now? So that's one. Am I going to run out of money? Number two is taxes. Let's say you've done very well for yourself. You put let's just throw it out there, $1 million. You've accumulated $1 million by the time you're 65, 67. You did very well for yourself. You have it in your 401k, you have it in your Roth IRA. By the time, let's say you're healthy, you still want to work till about 72. At 72, the IRS now says you have to start taking what we call RMDs. Required minimum distributions is what it's called. That means the government says, okay, you can't just accumulate anymore without taking distributions. Now, if you've had $1 million and most of it's accumulated through the market, you don't have $1 million because now you have to pay taxes on it. You may have 600,000, right? Depending on, you know, where the money, you know, what account or what qualified plan it was in. You may not have $1 million. You may have 700. You may have 600. Now, if I have $1 million, and most people, if we only end up with 600, hey, that's a good day. But depending on your family, your lifestyle, that's $400,000 lost, you know, that you have to worry about. So the second thing you have to worry about in retirement is taxes. How much am I going to have to pay taxes? Again, and annuities is a way to circumvent that, because you can put your money in annuity and the annuity can pay you an income until you die or until age 100, or it can keep paying after you die to your beneficiary. And that's one way to avoid having to pay a lot of taxes if you're going to be taking lump sum distributions later on down the road. And so when we use, annuity is basically a better version of a CD, in terms of interest rate and terms, right? But you can put your money into a vehicle that's going to accumulate over time and then pay you a revenue stream for the entire rest of your life. And you can calculate that from the beginning. So those are some of the tax-free, and I'm trying to keep that one light because there's so many different directions we can go.
Mm-hmm.
But index universal life policies are cash value policies, and annuities is a way for you to help, provide a revenue stream. And number one, make sure you don't outlive your finances. And number two, help cut down on that tax bill that you're going to have when you retire in your 60s. So.
Awesome. Wow, man. Great information. And we're just so thankful for all of that information. And we need to get your contact information. I know you're in Jacksonville, but we would love to get your contact information so that we can distribute it and have it available to all of our guests who will be coming on and watching this interview today. So if you don't mind, I know I have it, but if you don't mind just sharing that with us, and then we're going to put it as well in the bottom of the description for this interview.
Absolutely. So number one, you can always visit my website at thelifeinsuranshop.us. If you choose to do phone, that's the best way I like to do it. I give every single potential client my business cell phone, which is area code 904-415-1569. You can also reach me at my email address, haroldhobbs@thelifeinsuranshop.us. You can find me on Facebook. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on Twitter. You can find my company information on all three of those platforms too as well. I'm licensed in 10 states. I do virtual meetings with clients like this, like we're doing now, over the phone, in Texas and California and Michigan and North Carolina all the time. Whatever you choose to do, I'll be more than happy to consult you. I don't charge people to ask questions. I don't charge people to have a basic conversation with me. The door's open if you have a need and you're curious. Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate all the information.
No problem. Thanks for having me on the show. I really think I really count it as a privilege, and I look forward to the video when it comes out. So thank you.
All right.
Okay, I'll be in contact with you.
Thank you.
Hey guys, welcome to the Pinnacle Spotlight, where we highlight a local Black business owner here in the area. Today's business owner is Simone Richardson of AWAP, Artists with a Purpose. Simone Richardson is the CEO and founder of Artists with a Purpose. Simone has an associate's degree in commercial art and bachelor's degree in human services. Artists with a Purpose was established in 2012, and it helps adults and children throughout the community. Artists with a Purpose is a mobile art business that provides services to people that deal with mental health issues through expressive art. Simone was the first woman and African American to win the Gold Key Award from Walt Disney for the best media art here in Lake County, Florida. Simone serves in the community doing art, gallery shows, teaching art classes, volunteering, and much more. She has also collaborated with Artists with a Purpose with Mount Dora Center for the Arts, Leesburg Center for the Arts, Head Start Centers, and also local churches here in our community. Simone looks forward to partnering with any CEO, executives, and small businesses to spread the word about mental health through expressive art. She continues to reach out to other organizations such as nursing homes, colleges, public schools, foster homes, and many more to talk about mental health awareness. Simone Richardson, our August 2020 Spotlight for the Pinnacle Church of God. And guys, before we go, don't forget the 3 W's. Wash your hands, wear your mask, and watch your distance. Thank you guys. Bye.
We want to thank our guest today, Harold Hobbs, and also thank our pastor for always joining us. If you need further information, just go onto our site, and don't forget to subscribe to our new channel. Like, share, and comment, and don't forget to hit that notification bell. Follow us on Facebook and Holy Connection, and join us every Sunday morning at our drive-up service at 10:30, 315 Lime Street. Until next time, I'm your host, Janae Sharice. See you next time.